Well, Razorback fans, I think it's just time. It's time. Let's move on. Yeah, it's time.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of the John Neighbors Show, which you can catch every weekday afternoon from 4 to 6 on Natty State Sports and nattystatesports.com. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more where new customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Hope everybody's having a wonderful, I guess, Friday at this point in time, getting ready for the weekend. And we know Razorback baseball will be coming up, which we'll talk about a little bit, and have some interesting things to say and to talk about, which will be fun. It'll be good. And also some video game nonsense. But I haven't had a chance to do the podcast since Arkansas lost that game to Tennessee on Wednesday night, which was, without question, the most embarrassing and just overall pathetic performance I think I've ever seen from an Arkansas team going up against a superior opponent at home. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I really don't, but I feel like it has to be put to bed. Like the matter has to be put to rest. And part of me kept kind of thinking that at some point maybe this team would – I'm not saying they would ever get to an NCAA tournament. I didn't think that. I'm way past that. I don't even think they're going to postseason. I don't even know if they could finish in getting out of Wednesday night sadness. But I was hoping that maybe, just maybe once this season, we could see the Razorbacks actually put something together. Actually have a decent, fun little game somewhere along the way. You know, you could say it was against Duke, which I agree. It was a fun game. Rushing the court and all. Beating Duke because you don't get to play them very often. Arkansas played really well in that game. But that's it. That's it. That was the one time, the one moment this year, this season, that you had any sort of nice, fulfilling feeling about Razorback basketball. Even leading up to that game against Duke, you had some showings of not great play, to be honest. You had some showings that really, didn't exactly set the world on fire in any way. And you had some games that really it didn't go well for you. You lost to a directional school at home. You didn't have a great showing in the Bahamas. So even leading up to that Duke game, there were some moments of, don't know about this. But you kept hoping that it would get figured out. But it didn't. It didn't. Instead, it just kept going and going and going. It's like quicksand, as they say from the movie Replacements. Things go wrong one after the other, and then suddenly you're in a position where you can't move, you can't breathe, because you're in over your head. That's what it is. This team has been completely and totally in over their head. And I felt like this Tennessee game, might have been the last moment, the last chance to be able to have one game, just one game, where you were able to give Razorback fans a little something. Because it's at home. I used to believe in Bud Walton magic, and I still think it's there. But there was a time that even when the Razorbacks weren't good, but they were going up against a very good team at home in Bud Walton, I felt good about it. I felt good about Arkansas's chances. I felt like, hey, this crowd, this energy, this arena, it does something for people, man. It makes people feel intimidated when they walk in because there's so much energy and there's so much passion. I honestly felt like that was a thing that existed even to this day and even to this season. I truly did believe it. But didn't happen. Arkansas got trounced by 30 points, essentially. Between that game and the Auburn game at home and even the South Carolina game at home, your showings against high-quality opponents in the SEC at your home arena and Bud Walton Arena was partly, if not the most embarrassing losses you've suffered by point margins. I think by the time this season comes to an end, you will have seen the largest margin of defeat at home collectively of all these games that you've ever seen in Razorback basketball history, maybe even Bud Walton history for sure. It's been that bad. And I was really just hoping for some fight, some pride, some energy, some effort, something. And it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. I really don't know what else to say that hasn't already been said about this season, about this team, and about all the problems that it's had. There's blame to go around to everybody. There's reasons to be infuriated as a Razorback fan. And when I went into that game at Bud Walton Arena and I saw the amount of fans that were there, which actually was less than what I thought, but I mean, I don't know. They don't give the exact numbers. I would have said probably 12, 13,000 at the most were there. And I didn't blame any fan for not showing up. Team doesn't show up, why should you? Why should you? They don't care. Why should you spend your time, your effort, your money to go in and watch and root on a team that's the type of product that they put out on the floor? I don't blame you. The only reason that I think anybody would need to go to those games or whatnot is if they were given the tickets for free and they're like, oh, I got nothing else to do. But why would you want to go to something like that? I wouldn't. And I don't blame anybody else for not wanting to go to another game at home this year. I remember thinking that there's no way that as long as Muss is the coach that there will ever be even average basketball. Even basketball that's, it's okay. It's fine. An 18-win season. No, I was like, there's no way. There's no way. But here we are. And what makes it exponentially worse, not to bring it up once again, but what makes it exponentially worse is that you have football and basketball in the same year being trash. Awful. Both teams are going to finish with losing records. Substantial losing records. Like Arkansas is 12-12 in basketball right now. They're going to have a losing record. I could see them finishing with only 13 wins, like one or two more wins maybe. And you're going to have both football and basketball in the same year just be awful. And if you just think back to 2021, think back to then, and just the difference it makes and has made. Where in 2021, football had 9 wins. Coming off of a 9-win season, I guess I should say. You had basketball make it to the Elite Eight. And you had baseball make it to a College World Series. We were all flying high, weren't we? Man, what a year. What a school year that was, 2021, 2022. Everything seems so right in the world. It was a feeling of greatness that you really couldn't replicate. And here we are. Just A couple years later. And it's just bad. It's fun while it lasted. Just didn't last too long. And that's kind of the nature of the beast, isn't it? It's kind of just the way it goes. Oh, boy. But hey, at least we have something more to look forward to, right? We'll talk about it. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. But on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. How about a little positivity, folks? Shall we? Let's do that. Because today, officially, the Razorback baseball team takes the field for the very first time. They're taking on James Madison in what is a 4-game opening weekend series. They play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then they get ready next week, of course, to go down to Arlington, where they'll face teams like Oregon State, Oklahoma State, and Michigan. And I could not be more thrilled for this. I did my show, actually, yesterday, and talking about how baseball needs to save us. And when I say us, I don't mean just fans. I mean those of us in the media. People like me. Yeah, I'm a fan. I am. But I am also someone who does Razorback content, not only here on Locked On Razorbacks, but also with my company, also with the John Neighbors Show, as you can see in the reflection of this window and the logo of it. And don't let anyone fool you, especially in the media. The media wants success for the team they cover because that's what gets people excited. That's what gets people clicking on articles. That's what gets people listening to shows, listening to this podcast, reading articles, like all of that stuff. It happens because of success to go along with it. And because of that fact, Razorback baseball has to be the saving grace. I hate to put it all on them, but luckily for all of us, they're perfectly capable of living up to the task. They do a lot of great things, as we know. They've gone to World Series. They got players that have come into this place that just are next level good. It's transfers. Everybody. It's so good. They're so good. They got depth. They got talent. I can't tell you how many former players I have talked to who say and all feel the same way about this team. They're like, yo, this team's next level. And because of that, baseball has to live up to the expectation. I think they're the ones that are most capable of living up to the expectation. But I think that they have to. And they have to do it, just take the media stuff out of it. Take me out of it. Take the content purposes out of it. Take all of it. Look at it through the lens of just Razorback fans in general. You got to have some faith in something. You got to believe. You got to believe that this is all going to be better and it's going to get better. You have to believe in that. You have to feel that way. Because if not, well, I mean, what was it all for? There's got to be some sort of light at the end of the tunnel for Razorback fans right now. Football is disappointed. Basketball has been disappointed. Baseball last year, the regular season was, and it's not to say that I'm putting in the same stratosphere or blaming them or anything like that, but you know, it does vibe pretty good. It does look pretty good when they're able to do those things and to look as good as they did. But there's got to be some sort of way that baseball can just alleviate a lot of these terrible feelings that Razorback fans have had. And I don't blame them for having them. Now, this is going to be a tough schedule. I mean, they got to play in the SEC. They got a fun schedule, a lot of the fun home game series in the SEC. They got problems that I'm going to come up, whether it's injuries. I mean, we've already seen Stovall get an injury. Knock on wood. That's the least of their problems, or the least of their issues, where, they're going to overcome that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's pretty late. I'm trying to say that hopefully it ends up being okay, injury-wise, not like it was last year. But they're going to have guys that are dinged up. They're going to have guys that are banged up. They're going to have guys that are going to be out. But that's when the depth is really going to kick in. But I just want this team to be able to showcase and live up to the expectation for once of a Razorback team. Football and basketball didn't do it this past year. And if you really look at it, football and basketball really didn't do it the previous year either. I mean, really think about that. Basketball was really helped, of course, by getting to the Sweet 16. Of course, no one's going to complain about that. But that season was not what the season everybody was hoping for and praying for. Nothing's really lived up to that. You need to have something that actually will deliver it to you. Deliver it to you as a fan. That's what you need. You need delivery. You need promises kept. You just need to feel good about yourself for a change. So do it, baseball. Do it for all of us. Make it happen. I believe in you. Folks, I got to tell you, of course, about Gametime, one of our great sponsors here on the show. We know that all of us are trying to go to sporting events. This is what we talk about, whether maybe concerts, maybe you want to go to comedy shows, theater visits, whatever it is, whatever it may be. That's why you have to use Gametime. This app, which is incredible when it comes to last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. They're easy to find to buy these tickets for all these different events that are going on in your area. And you even get views from the seats venue. So when you're about to buy the ticket, it's not something where you're just like, well, this seems good, but you end up being behind a big pillar or something. No. It gives you the view of what your seats will be when you purchase your tickets with, of course, Gametime. And also, you get the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and so much more. And you can always take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. And right now, all Gametime users get $100 off of a big game ticket with promo code Vegas100. Vegas100. Or if you want to go over there and check it out, if you're not going to the game itself, use Locked On as their promo code. $20 off your first purchase. Just download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I really wish I could play this video, but I can't, or else I'll get in trouble. We don't want that. But I saw the trailer for the new, it's not video game trailer or just the big gameplay trailer. It's a hype video mainly for the trailer for the NCAA football game, video game. Now, some of you are already turning off this podcast because you're like, nerd, talking about video games and whatnot, and that's fine. But I'm going to tell you right now, I grew up on NCAA football. Like, that was the game I grew up on. I love that game. I love that game. I got it every single year. I had it on my PlayStation 2, my PlayStation 3, customizing those rosters and playing as Arkansas and doing dynasty mode, all of that stuff. I love those games. And I remember when it got announced that EA Sports was going to be able to bring it back because of NIL and they can make it work. And I was like, okay, yes, about time. Let's bring it back. Let's go. Let's have it. Let's ride. But then I was quickly brought down to earth because I'm like, you know what? It's still EA Sports, though. And for those of you who don't know, I used to somewhat also play Madden games, especially when NCAA football went away. I started playing a little bit of Madden. I have hated these Madden games. I have had no desire to play Madden for years. But Madden is trash. Never been a fan. Or I have been, but just not here recently. And those games are made by EA Sports. And so I just already am having, because everything else is going badly when it comes to having a high expectation for something for me. I mean, why not go ahead and make it the video game too? Why not? I just think it's going to be a trash game. It's probably going to have a bunch of microtransactions, and the game, like the game football models are going to look dumb. They're going to have like stuff for Arkansas that's going to be completely, totally wrong. I just have very, very, very low expectations. Yes, I will buy the game, though, still. I'll be that guy. I'll still buy the game, buy it on my PlayStation 5, probably play it a bit, play it with my friends. Everyone gets to talking about it, yada, yada, yada. But I just have no hope for it. I really don't. I have no desire for it, no hope for it, no good feelings about it. I just, nothing. I don't have any vibes for it. But again, I'm a sucker. I'll play it. I'll do it. I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will regret it. But for those of you who are going to be buying it and watching it, and or maybe you're watching this and you're disagreeing with me, that's fine. But I hope I'm wrong. I say that a lot on this podcast. I hope I'm wrong. Does that make me cynical? Does that make me an idiot? Maybe both. Maybe both. Appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Neighbors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel next Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you then.